Hello, I'm Ollie Shirley, and this podcast was produced as a part of the Premodern World History project at Georgetown University. The idea of an ancient epic is not an unfamiliar one to most people, but usually the first one to spring to mind is the Aeneid's founding of Rome or the Odyssey's legendary voyage. Today, we take a look at a little buffalo that can tell us about an epic that was just as important to its society, but isn't as widely known: the Sanjata. This ancient sculpture of a buffalo, created between the 9th and 14th centuries in the Middle Niger civilization, stands 9 inches tall from its hooves to the tips of its horns and stretches 5 inches in length from its nose to its rear. It was cast in bronze, and, once upon a time, it would have been golden and shiny, quite beautiful to behold. Now, this bronze sculpture is covered in a thick green patina, rusting or tarnished in small patches that dot the entirety of its surface. Its legs and torso are long and thin, and its face is serene, almost happy, as it gazes ahead, content in its artistic rendering. The buffalo's front legs stretch directly down from its neck, ending in hooves that seem to balance on tiptoe, giving the buffalo a precarious look, as if it were ready to topple over at a moment's notice. 2 horns curve upwards from behind its ears, almost touching each other at their very tips, and its ears prick upwards as if listening to everything around it. The buffalo's mouth is slightly agape, adding to its affability. It gives off a kind aura, certainly not vengeful or angry, though age has taken a toll on its finer details. As you look at its uneven gait, slightly asymmetrical horns, tarnished eyes, and smiling mouth, it is hard not to come to like this little bronze buffalo. The significance of the buffalo is complex and multifaceted. What may be the most recognizable appearance of this animal is that of the Buffalo Woman of Do in the Sanjata, which is the only orally transmitted epic in the world. This tale tells of the titular character's ancestry, the circumstances of his birth, and his eventual founding of Mande. Though today Mande denotes a small region within Mali, at the time the story was being created, the word Mande connoted something closer to the civilized world, portraying Sanjata as an Aeneas-like founder of an entire people. The Buffalo Woman, or Do Camissa, is first mentioned in the 4th chapter-like segment of the Sanjata as the sister of the Mansa, a word best translated as sultan or emperor, of the land of Doni Kiri. Her story is an interesting quasi-feminist narrative. Camissa made the sacrifice that led to her younger brother's birth and appointment as heir, but when he ascended to the throne, he forbade her from owning property as a woman. In revenge, Camissa transformed herself into a buffalo and ravaged her brother's lands, killing anyone he sent to stop her. The Buffalo Woman is shown clearly to have an enormous amount of power at her disposal, which makes her an important early example of female strength. However, the story continues by following 2 hunters aiming to kill the buffalo, who end up showing unusual kindness to Do Camissa. Finally, Camissa consents to be killed by these 2 hunters. In the original story, she explains,
"I was the first to offer a sacrifice for my brother. So who does he think he is, telling me that women shouldn't have property? Huh! I would have wiped out Don Samago's entire lineage. But you, Sharifo, you have outdone me. I will cooperate with you and give you my life, for I know that if you kill me, you will bury me. You will not let my body go to God as a bad body."
In exchange for the glory that the hunters would receive, Camissa asks that they take as a wife Soligon, her sister, whom Camissa had accidentally morphed into a twisted hunchback. Ugly Soligon, as she is called by many, would later become the mother of our hero, Sanjata. The importance of our little buffalo in this tale is in the strength Do Camissa possesses and the occult power, called Dalilu in this circumstance, that she and Soligon passed down to Sanjata. Dalilu, also called Niyama, is a spiritual power some people have that allows them to communicate and make alliances with guardian spirits. Sanjata was able to wield this power, and so too were the Mande people. The importance of guardian spirits and Niyama comes from the nature of climate in West Africa. Professor Meredith McKittrick on African climate.
Because so much of Africa is in this kind of semi-arid zone, the rainfall is highly variable from year to year. And this is very true of Sahelian West Africa, the part of the world where your object comes from. And so that variability of rainfall, of course, not only requires strategies for managing it, but also I think has created in these societies a need for explanation about why the rainfall is so variable and what humans can do about it. And I think that is the reason why so many African societies have had rainmaking and fertility and sort of religious approaches to water management at the core of their cosmologies.
Known as men of crisis, those who meant to control weather held enormous authority in their communities. They held the key to forces powerful enough to summon rains or kill with the power of their minds, and were entrusted with keeping their people from drought. To do all this, these men, also called weather machines, used niyama, the energy inherent in all things. Changes in the flow of niyama create changes in climate. Thus, the Mande people sought to control it for their benefit. The method of manipulating niyama changed over the centuries in the medieval Mande world, though the premise was, and still is, that human actions augment power that already exists in nature. The first people to gain the power of niyama were hunters.
These hunters would take a dalimasigi, or knowledge journey, in which they would travel through a dangerous landscape. On his quest, the hunter would kill proprietary spirit animals, one of whom is our buffalo, who held power over their land. Animals were thought to have niyama themselves, and killing an animal would free up that niyama for the use of the community. With the guardian spirit having been defeated too, the lands they controlled would be open for settlement. Hunters always dealt with these wild animals, thought to be avatars or guardian spirits of specific places.
With time, a second subset of people gained access to niyama. These were the blacksmiths. Along with these added weather machines came changes in tradition. Niyama could now be harnessed from familiars. Snakes were common familiars, kept in sanctums and consulted by both hunters and blacksmiths before important decisions. These snakes often represented the power of a particular part of a landscape. The use of familiars also helped to increase the power of symbology. Niyama could be represented in a figurine of an animal, such as that of our buffalo. We can think of our buffalo as a bufaro instead, a representation of a spirit from the realm of Faro that has inherent power. So, hunters and blacksmiths could kill animals or use familiars to control the power of niyama to affect climate in an area known for its varied rainfall. But who were these guardian spirits?
Spirits usually lived in an unusual landscape or where there was a transition. Waterways, for example, were common homes for spirits, and sometimes there were even transitions within waterways, like deep or side channels, that housed more spirits. Living in this waterway would be an animal guardian spirit, sometimes a buffalo like our own. These spirits were responsible for phenomena on Earth, like a drought, which made them of extreme importance to the Mande people.
In modern Mali, much of this culture persists. Among traditions today is the secret religious society of the Como. Led by a man, usually a blacksmith, known as the Como Tigi, this society interacts with climate not as random, but as influenced deeply by human actions. The Como Tigi is believed to have the power to see into the future, cure the sick, and protect his people from malevolent spirits. Through his intense knowledge of animals, plants, and celestial bodies, he can predict whether rains will come and has the skill to create charms to protect his community's harvest from both drought and pests. With this power, the Como Tigi can convince his people to move when spirits free up better land in times of drought, or he can prevent some drought entirely. Unfortunately for scholars, not much more is known about Mande religious practices in the modern era. Practitioners hold their cards very close to their chests, and we know little about higher-level practices. The greatest reason for this secrecy is safety. The forces and objects with which these people deal are thought to be far too powerful for common use. The average citizen would be in danger if given this information. Interestingly, we know the least about women's roles in this religion. Women's secrets are thought to be among the most powerful, which is why we understand the practices of hunters and blacksmiths, but not any of women. Our buffalo has taken us to medieval Mande, where the Sanjata was told as historic legend, and people used the life that flows through all things to maintain a stable climate. This ancient tradition continues today in Mali and still remains somewhat of a mystery. Thank you for listening.